States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Item number 4. Good point. Public hearing. Anyone from the public wish to speak? Yes.
Good evening. Of course, you know who I am, Diane Gove from the River Road, and I see that it is on the agenda to discuss the River Road this evening. I know that originally the plan was hopefully to go out to bid this year, early this year, from the damage last year, to go out to bid for the construction and demolition of the houses. But of course, from over the winter where there was more damage, you had to go out to the engineers again to have more assessment, and of course you had to do the abatement assessments for the homes. But here we are in June, and I don't know if you've heard from the engineers, but there's still damage. The structures last week that are still happening on the road, so that by the time you hear the discussion and make decisions, it's another year is going to be late. So I'm sure that nothing will be done this year until 2020, and then if you go out to bid, I'm sure there will be more damage done. We'll have to have that tested in. My thought is, sorry about this, Dave. Why is it that maybe Dave and his Public Works crew can come in and take a look at the road, see what they can do about the east side of the telephone poles, which was, I think, one of the plans anyway, like going over 30 feet, but the east side of the telephone poles, take an assessment of the ground, do a digging, see what it looks like, see what's there. Maybe, if possible, instead of going out to bid to demo the homes, let the Public Works crew take the homes down. And I think that should be done anyway to get those before damage is done or people try to go into to do any damage to them. But have Dave do an assessment. If it looks like maybe they can do something, let them dig down as far as they need to, take out the clay or whatever is there, put in some good fill, some good material, and pave it. That way we wouldn't be interrupting any of the sewer lines, any of the electrical lines, and maybe at the same time the old railroad bed, put a good ditch all the way down so that it drains into the pit, which is Cable Utilities pit. Nothing's going to happen. There's lots of sand down there, so that instead of spending $1.2 or $1.5 million that was assessed, let the Public Works do something if they can. I don't know, $75,000, $100,000, I don't know, but it's a lot. You're not spending $1.5 million. Is it going to work? Don't know. Would it even work with the spending the 1.2 or the 1.5 million? We don't know. But if it works, that's wonderful. If it doesn't work, we're only spending this amount with the crew and then being assessed from there. That way we're getting the weight off the road, away from that west side where we need to move over and get things taken care of, instead of maybe going through another winter and having more damage and not knowing, and maybe even have to go the rail bed, which was, I think, was the most expensive plan that the engineers had given you. So maybe this will work. That's just my thoughts. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Diane. Anybody else would like to speak from the public? Hearing none, thank you very much. The River Road is coming up on the agenda. Item number 4, minutes. Regular council meeting held May 28th. Chair will entertain a motion. Seconded to accept the minutes. May 28th council meeting. Those opposed? openings, awards, and appointments. Carl Grant, recertification, tax collector. Where's Carl?
Yeah, so he's enjoying the night outside of his meeting. But we wanted just to let you know, the council, that he did receive his recertification tax collector. Pat on the back. Appreciate it.
Does he have a plaque or something that he gets?
He gets a letter with the state's fancy letterhead on it. So,
An opportunity to get our picture in the paper. Next time, have him come in and we'll get it.
okay.
We'll get our picture taken. Thank you very much. Number 6. Nope, nothing under 6. Number 7. New business. 7A, discussion of possible action regarding the acceptance of a vehicle through the criminal forfeiture. Dennis.
Mayor and council, we have a vehicle, and sorry to put here tonight if you have any specific questions on it, but basically this vehicle has been impounded. It's a 2013 vehicle, so let me pull up the information real quick. Because of the amount of time that it's been involved with court proceedings and been impounded by the department, the courts have said that they can turn it now over to the city if we would like it. 2013 Infiniti G37 sedan, and talking with the chief, the intent is that we would like to accept it and then put it in as a trade-in value in our next purchase for a cruiser. So the recommendation is that the council accept this forfeiture into the city's hands.
Amy? Council, what's it worth? The roll is more than 10 words.
Okay. I looked it up on the NADA, the value of it. The low book value of it is $6,600. NADA says the high book is 12. I reached out to some people I know that work in southern Maine at the auto auction, and this is a sought after car, and they're going for higher than the book value at the auction. And what we would like to do with it, historically, forfeitures are normally used by the police department to go back for police equipment. We'd like to take the funds from this and either use it towards the purchase of a new cruiser that we're anticipating needing towards the end of the year.
Has this individual been, has he been found guilty or innocent?
Yes, he has.
Found guilty?
He was found guilty and is currently incarcerated.
I move to accept.
Accept. If I understand, clarify, to accept this vehicle, sale which will go into the police department capital expenditure budget.
For the
For the purchase of a cruiser, yes. Our understanding from, we've been typically purchasing Fords, our understanding is that there was between a $6,000 and $8,000 increase in the price of those this year.
Moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion?
Just real quick, Paul, why was he, why Ford increasing?
Ford did it for 2 reasons. Police interceptor vehicles this year.
Did he talk to you or something? Or?
I don't know exactly what they did, but they're more in line price-wise with the
7B, discussion regarding 2019 CDBG Public Service Grant Application. Dennis.
Mayor and Council, Ken Murchison has the information on this, and I'd like to give him some time to speak about it.
So as part of our CDBG effort this year, Kerry reached out to us and with an idea to go after public service program grant through CDBG. The idea from Kerry is to create the Caribou area personalized transportation system. So in effect, making a roster of all the transportation systems out there from the Arts Bus to each and every church, the RSVP, everyone that offers rides to people that may be shut in, to get those people where they need to be for their medical appointments, for groceries, just so they're not isolated any longer. So we sent out our letter of intent on time, and it came back positive. So they invited us into the grant round. And the grant is due on the 21st of June, so tight time schedule. So I appreciate you hearing from us tonight, because we will need to set up a public hearing for the 17th, and that's a special meeting. So the total grant is for $36,181. A small portion of that will be from Caribou. It's all in kind. It will be my time attending meetings and acting as liaison on that board of directors. If anyone has any questions, I'd answer the best I can.
Questions from council?
Mayor, if I might point out, there is a difference between this CDBG application and the Porter application that the county reviewed a couple weeks back. In the Porter application, the city was on the hook potentially if Porter did not come through with their business plan. This is a 100% grant, and that if this doesn't happen to come to fruition the way we thought, there's no risk of the city having to do that. It is a complete grant.
If the program is not permitted and they don't do the project, it will be rescinded. So we just return that money.
How many other grants?
We were shooting for 5, we're down to 2.
What other ones were there?
I believe there was another one that was we couldn't decide whether it was an economic development or a public service grant for the Phoenix Healthcare downtown. Shane and his help of that left us with Terry, public service one. Corvair.
Hilltop Housing Project
That's right.
we were looking at them with a housing grant potentially, and also looking at the downtown redevelopment grant.
Downtown redevelopment.
That was one we looked at very early on. It was some funding to help out with, you could do light cleanup, storefront facades, also help with planning grants. It was the time frame on the downtown grant application was very tight, and it was very early on in the season, and we put everything together that was needed for it.
So places like Georgia. That would help out.
Right.
So our upcoming work on our comprehensive plan update will help us in next year's rounds.
So technically, get funding to improve our facade.
Funny you should say that. We're actually working on that. The owner of the builder came in today to look at the facade grant. We gave him the application, explained it to him, pointed out the finer points. I think he's going to move ahead on that.
The city already has a pot of funds for facade improvement.
Ken, do we currently have this service available?
What we have is a hodgepodge of services all over the area. Like I said, the Arts Bus is a good one. And they come to town every day. But they only service the rural areas once or twice a week. We have the RSVP, so volunteer drivers from Area Agency on Aging. Great program. People aren't aware of it. So the the word is not getting out there. The churches will do it. We run people in the city here, for instance, at the Adult Outdoor Project. Great program. Again, you know, it could be even better if more people knew about it. So our idea is, or Gary's idea, count myself part of the project, is to be able to dispatch all these various transportation systems to those people who need it. So they would have a one call, and the dispatcher on the other end will say, "You're in luck. Ours is coming your way," or we'll schedule a ride with RSVP on your appointment date, or
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, so we need a motion.
And there's no action you can take on this tonight, but we do have to have a public hearing on the application itself, which we would like to have next week as a special meeting, public hearing only. And after that public hearing, then you can take action on it, as far as accepting the approval of it or not to be submitted.
You'd think I'd know this, but we need to vote to take it, to go to a public hearing.
No.
Okay.
thanks.
Thanks. Number 8, old business. Adopt ordinance. Discussion possible action regarding Floridale Park. Dennis.
The last time we talked about this, the question was asked, what would be the cost to the city and the benefits if we actually move forward and try to get Floridale Park in private hands? We were able to go out and get a cost proposal from Dale Blackstone, who's done a lot of the surveying work in the area. And he said that he could get the property ready for sale, all the survey work and trying to get all the old right-of-way cleaned up for about $4,000. And okay. There would be additional title work involved, estimated about $2,000 for that. So we're looking at $6,000 cost to the city, ready to go. That would be a one-time cost. The benefit to the city of having Floridale in private hands, that's assuming the current mill rate would stay in place, and the assessed value is currently shown at roughly $2,800 as raw property. Now, if we go through the process of getting it surveyed and conveyed to adjacent properties or put out to bid, and maybe we can get it all as one whole piece, how that might get parsed out would also affect the value that we're able to receive for tax purposes. If it gets attached to adjacent properties as rear property, that has a different value than front property on some of those lots. And Penny Thompson could speak to the finer points of that if you really wanted to get into details. But basically, you're looking at roughly $1,000 a year in value to the city if we can get it into private hands. Some of that is that we spend roughly $900 a year between man hours and equipment maintenance on the park, which we wouldn't have to worry about if it was in private hands. So net positive return on investment would be expected in about 7 years. That's, again, with that one-time payout of roughly $6,000 to go through the process, and then being able to not have to spend that money every year, plus receive some property taxes. So that's kind of the net position of disposing of Floridale Park. We still have some options. The intent was that this would go toward the benefit of one business owner that's expressing interest in the property. Going through the survey process, we may not be able to convey it as one whole piece. We may have to parse it out. It was tax acquired, so we have to put it out to bid. So there's this one property owner may not go through the bid process, and it might get picked up by somebody else. In the end, it would be the same benefit to the city as far as the tax benefit, but certainly it may not be the same intent when we started this process. As far as just a fiscal note for the council to be aware of, this was not anticipated in the current expense budget, and so we have to determine what funds would be utilized to go through this process if you want to do that. The recommendation would be that where it's a one-time allocation, we look at some of the funds that are already in the budget, and such as the senior homestead tax credit, set $50,000 aside for, and the having the legislature still here to do not make that as necessary for us. Simply say that we're not going to go forward with that. That should be done by a specific motion if you want to do that.
Dave? Do we have to sell to the abutters?
It depends on how the right-of-way cleanup occurs. What I mean by that is some of these property owners, their legal description actually calls out to the center of this right-of-way and then excludes that. And so there's an interest, so to speak, already in the property. Not the whole piece, but some of those where we have homes above the property on the east side, some of those have the written interest in the ground. It doesn't go all through the street. Pull up a map so we can talk about this a little better. If there was an actual street there with improvements, the legal right-of-way defined, then yes, by state law, we would have to go through a closure process similar to what we did on Park Street with the RSU project. This is a paper right-of-way. We have to get probably legal opinion on what the best way is to handle that. So, there's Floridale Park, and these 5 lots, of those lots call to the street or the center line of this road south that appears to have at least been anticipated to be extended all the way to the north behind these homes and then connect back through and connect back to the west. And so these are the 5 homes that we're looking at, trying to work through the right-of-way cleanup issue. We also have, before we convey anything from the park, we'd want to make sure that we clearly define or grant utility easements through there. The utilities district has a sewer line that runs down through the middle of that park, so we'd want to make sure that gets surveyed appropriately and we get right-of-way designated for them, so that when the property does get conveyed, everybody understands what's in place, and to make that a more formal encumbrance on the ground. I didn't really answer your question, because I don't have a really good answer for it at this point.
Well, I mean, it'd be nice to advertise, here's a parcel, but how do we get to that point? And how much money do you want to spend? If the one person in the middle wants to
we have to work through the surveying process. The very simplest way to convey it, or to create a legal description, there's a difference between creating a legal description Mr. Blackstone indicated he could create a legal description to say this is the legal description for the property. But that doesn't clear the right of way issue.
The one that started this mess in the first place.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Because I wanted some of these parks that didn't seem to be used. I know they were owned by the city, but didn't seem to be used. I kind of wanted to see some of this stuff be transferred over to the private sector so we could start collecting some tax dollars on it. But in this case, I think it's too complicated. And I think if we could if we would lease it to the business owner who's interested in it, just the mowing and the upkeep alone, if they're paying out about $900 a year to do that now in the city, the taxes would be about $900 a year with improvements. That would kind of wash into it. So if we could give him a long-term lease that's very reasonable and he improves it, I kind of think that's more of the rather than go through all this surveying and separating, and maybe this person wants their parcel next to them, but somebody else doesn't. I think it's getting too complicated, and I think the city should keep it and lease it out if possible with some kind work to keep. It looks nice today. It's been really it's really good today. And, see what it would be. Something like that. Just
She has made improvements or done whatever.
We would need to spell out in the lease agreement what rights they would have in using the property. You know, they would have whatever rights they would grant them as a leasee.
My question is, can anybody in the neighborhood or anyone come up to the city and say
No, because it is the city's property right now.
Okay, any other questions, comments? If I understand what we're doing here tonight, is we're here to decide on spending $6,000.
Tell us the direction, what you'd like to do with this. So that's one of the options.
we don't have to spend it if we lease?
If you want to move forward with a lease agreement, then we can get that wrapped up and brought back to you for consideration on another meeting.
I will support
I'll make the motion that we lease the property, Floridale Park property, rather than parcel it out to sell it.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I would just, if you're gonna draw up a lease, I don't know. I mean, I don't want to leave Spencer all high and dry because somebody comes along and says, I want to move in here, I want to do this, that, and the other things right away, because this right away stuff is just silly. In my mind, you're not going to put a road down through there.
But the manager says that would not happen since we still own it.
It would totally come on us. If we wanted to put that road there, that's on us, not anybody else.
We own that ground.
Sure.
The only issue I have is I'd be in favor of having a lease presented to us prior to saying, well, is that what we're saying? Is that this is a direction, draw up a lease to bring back to us for discussion.
Rather than sell it, lease, do something.
Look at the lease option.
Would selling still be an option?
I don't think we're going to vote on this tonight, so I suppose selling could still be an option after we look at the lease.
Look at all the options we have.
I guess what we're doing is we're making a motion to direct the administration to do some work on this. What can we do with it? You got that figured out? Okay. All those in favor? Passes. Before you take down that back did we ever decide if there was a house lot involved in any of this property? A house lot? Can a house lot be derived from any of this? I know a lot of it's wet. Was there, in this piece, was there a section that was big enough and dry enough to develop a house lot?
Yes, on that very south end ground, you could potentially put something there.
Does that particular section also require $6,000 of cost to clear it?
Probably not that much, because we're not dealing with the whole piece of ground. We could talk to Mr. Blackstone about that and see.
Do you know if the CUP has infrastructure in that potential house lot area?
Yep.
It does? Okay, fair enough. Okay, thanks.
Real quick, how many other properties that we can secure? Do we have
Or city holdings and review those.
well, just city holdings and quote unquote crazy deeds? I mean, I'd like to just figure this all out. That way in the future, we don't have to go through this exercise. I mean, it seems like every time we look at a property, there's just so many hurdles to hop over. Let's clean this up a little. Or a lot.
Well, and again, this was tax-acquired property, and usually it's the tax-acquired properties that come to us because of all problems that
But what bothers me the most about that is it comes on the taxpayers to clean up this stuff, and that's just, well, it's not right.
And we voted on it. Okay, thank you very much. Item 8B, discussion possible action regarding summer council meetings and work session dates. Dennis?
So, recognizing that summer's a beautiful time of year, and some people are taking long vacations or short vacations during that time frame, just wanted to review again with the council the summer meeting schedule and propose some adjustments to that. Historically, the council has only met during June, July, August, once during those months. And for the month of June, we propose that we again have a special meeting next week just to have that public hearing on the CDBG application. And we second meeting in June, the first meeting in June would be the June meeting to go ahead and have what would be the regularly scheduled second meeting in July. And then rather than have two meetings in August, only have one meeting in August and have that be more to the middle of the month, so we don't have all lengthy spread out between the end of July and when our next meeting would be, and resume normal 2 months per month in September.
If the council wouldn't mind if we could take each one of these dates separate, I'd appreciate it. Chair will entertain a motion to meet June 17th for a public hearing.
Public hearing for the Kerry grant,
Yes.
Correct.
and we can't wait until June 24th to do that, because it's gonna be a 5-minute meeting?
It's due on the 21st.
On the 21st.
Could we set the mill rate on the 17th, since the election is tomorrow?
No. We still are waiting for things from the state legislature to come out in the wash, so to speak, as far as what's happening with the homestead tax exemption.
This is their last week, though.
We hope. Years ago, they waited till almost the middle of July before they took final action that we could.
Well, then we might be in August before they figure it out.
I'll make a motion to meet.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Those opposed? Carries 4-1. Chair will entertain a motion to meet on June 24th.
That's right. That's already scheduled.
That one's already
Okay,
scheduled.
so we don't have to vote on that. Chair will entertain a motion to meet on July 22nd.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments, issues?
That's in lieu of no July.
Correct. Correct. All those in favor? Motion unanimous.
Give a clarification that just to cancel the July meeting.
Okay.
That's that part of the motion to July 22nd, just to cancel July.
And I agree.
Thank you for the clarification. That was also
Chair will entertain a motion to cancel the August 12th City Council meeting and replace it with the August 19th with a proposed August 19th City Council meeting. That's a 3 or 4 times, isn't it? Any questions, comments? So moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor?
clarification. Does that mean we cancel?
Make a motion.
Okay, wait a minute now. Let's back up. We'll get to that one. Right now, we're working on a motion to cancel August 12th and substitute it for August
You
19th.
just,
You voted.
No, we didn't.
we did.
We voted on that?
Yeah, we had
I didn't think you called for a vote yet.
No, I didn't call for a vote. Well, let's do it again. Let's compromise here, and we're going to vote again, Jane. The motion is to cancel August 12th and replace it with August 19th. All those in favor? Those opposed? There. 4-1, it passed. Now,
Cancel the August 26th.
Second.
moved and seconded. All those in favor? All those opposed? 4-1. Motion carries.
The other element to this item there is the work session discussion. The council council has asked for 3 different work sessions at some point. Those be including a marketing and branding strategies work session with Christine. We also asked for a fire and EMS services discussion on that. And then there's also suggested having a public safety building presentation with the council talking about possible private partnership options. We just don't want to, where the council's discussed having these work sessions, we just want to bring them up again as options for scheduling another meeting or making them part of the regular agenda so we can make sure that these items are all being addressed by the council the way you want them to be.
Anybody have any issues in the coming? Okay.
I'd just like to wonder where the public safety building is. I mean, is there any way we could
It's possible. We have to put onto the ballot as a price tag. And if you want to use the price tags, then do that. Ideally, we have an actual bill.
Can we have the public vote on the concept of a public service building provided? I mean, isn't that the kind of the condition the committee agreed on? If you can get these grants,
So grants.
why not?
All the other ones we've been working on.
I mean, I'd hate to say, okay, we're going to put on this in 2020. I just like to do or don't. And if private partnership is an option, that's where we are.
Take care of like these three things in one meeting, or like have separate meetings on each one?
If you want to put them all on the same agenda, discuss.
Bring pizza.
And we could do that. We could do that.
I'd like that in one meeting.
I'd like to do the public safety building first.
Between now and the next regular meeting of the council, I'll do some more digging on those and bring up a better answer for you.
The only Thursday is
And then you get Thursdays on school.
So,
That's too late. For you to get here, I'd like to see it, in July. Get all your ducks in a row. Things you can do. All the information needed.
get all the adequate information we need to it's chemical with those 3 items.
Was discussion. And so that one, Christina is pulling together public safety building. I know that the one group that's been really asking about it, they can present anytime. So they would not come here in person, but they would provide the presentation materials and give voice to the presentation. Just to give the council an idea of what might look at. Put it on July, that would be better. As far as calendaring, I know particularly in the safety building.
Well, you have in July, we have the meeting on the 22nd. We wanted to do it on a Tuesday. You have the 9th, the 16th, the 30th, the 23rd would be right after. And
I will be out of town until the 14th of July.
it's tough in the summertime because I know Mark and I are there's no vacations. So that's another reason why I'd like to at least maybe do the 25th of June. And head here.
That's Thursday.
Tuesday, 25th of June.
25th?
Of June.
It's Tuesday. 27th is the Thursday.
We're looking July.
Yes, sir.
I thought you were talking July.
No.
25th is a Thursday.
Tuesday in June.
Tuesday.
In June.
Oh, in June?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought you wanted it in July.
Well, I'm going through and I'm throwing out dates for everybody so we can just pin it down and move on.
23rd,
That's right at the next day after our July 22nd meeting.
which will give us incentive to make that meeting short.
Fair enough.
July 23rd. Is that when?
I'll make a motion, we have a meeting July 23rd to discuss public safety building, then marketing, and then fire EMS if we have time.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments, questions?
I'll be digging in the dirt too.
You won't be digging in the dirt July 23rd.
Roking,
Doing what?
playing feedback.
All those in favor? Those opposed? 4-1, motion carries. Thank you.
That's 6 o'clock, right?
Discussion. What? Okay. Discussion, this is 8C, discussion regarding the River Road construction project. I asked to have this placed on the agenda. And I wanted to read a prepared statement. Part of my job to run a fair meeting, and I always like to let other councilors go first. Does any councilor have any issues that they want to talk about? We had public comments. Be questions for them or anything like that on the River Road.
Is Dubois and Keene coming good for the work they should have done last summer that they're doing this summer? Or do they want more money?
Right now, they're all staying within the contract that we signed with them.
What does that mean?
Right now, they're not asking for any more money. That's what we have in the contract. I'll get you a number.
Because there's one thing to ask, you know, up to 150 when you've only spent half that. And now you're asking for more. 50 for this thing. That's almost 150.
Wasn't some of that 150 include construction management?
So they would help us. That 150 goes all the way up to putting the project in bid. Construction activities.
Okay. Anybody else have any comments on the river?
Well, being that I pretty much travel that road almost on a daily basis and have been back and forth since the failure last year, I Diane assessment. First thing and say, can the highway help us out? What do you think? This maybe I'm not looking at this point in time to go along with what the engineers probably want and spend one. We need to take some time, but perhaps make a makeshift road or whatever, passageway. If the highway could, first of all, I think we need to demolish the houses and move a couple of poles over to the east. We demolish the houses, that gives us extra room to go east. Perhaps leave the barriers up, move them in a little bit, but leave the barriers up where they are now. Widen the road out a little bit. Put some kind of makeshift pavement or something over it just to kind of help the potholes, kind of make it a two-way. Take our time with traveling on the road to see if anything's going to happen anywhere. Because there's a little bit of movement here and there. I think we need to go through another summer, fall, winter, and spring before we even make any serious judgments on how we're going to get this fixed. I think we may be surprised. Maybe it won't take that long. I know the people on the river road don't care if it's pretty. We don't care if it's well landscaped. We don't care if we've got pretty trees or guardrails. We want a safe, travelable lane that we can use, especially through the winter months. And I think if we load something down the road and lighter or something like that we could travel on for a while and see if something else happens. See if there's if it's gonna give way again, like in the spring or something. Spring or something like that, but give it some time. We don't need to hurry, but we need a safe way to travel that road so that we don't have to use the Fort Road, especially in the winter time. I also think that the Jalbert House ought to be part of the demolition. I think if we don't do that and the road continues to give away and we have to move over further, you may end up buying it a second time. And the longer you leave those houses there, you're going to have raccoons moving in, you're going to have mold in there, you're going to have a mess. Maybe it could even cause some health problems. I don't know. I think that we should look into doing maybe what the highway could help us out with. Maybe if we have to hire out a little bit, but get the poles moved, get the houses down, move that over a little bit, and then drop on it for a while and see what happens. And probably maybe later on, it's going to hold for another 5,000 that it's gonna be really, really nice, just passable and safe. So that's, if Dave can help us, I don't know. What do you think?
Close to having an engineer design done.
The indication is that the one came by the 17th, so they will have their analysis done and be able to come back and tell the council, this is all the information that we have, this is what the wrong is, and this is their for the fix.
So here's what I think, for what it's worth. We are not engineers. I've told you guys that many times over. I believe that the city needs to have that engineering done. I believe that at some point they'll probably end up doing that. I also believe that there ain't any of us that believe that we're going to put enough together to get a contractor there this fall time to make that road open for the winter. I don't know that anyone actually believes that can happen. I have no problem with tearing the houses down. We've done demolition out to trailer parks. We've done it on Collins Street. We use our snow haulers to haul it away. We use our backhoes to load it. It's easy for me to spend the city's money, but I think that fourth house should go as well. I think that's a good idea. Where that has to turn in at the restart. I was under the understanding that the poles did not need to be moved if the road went on that side where the houses are. Am I correct in that? I would say let's take the houses down. Let's bulldoze a path and haul some gravel in, and let's put the road on that side, and then we can still watch what happens on the And unless you think there's a chance that a city can get a contractor in to come and do that haul at a fairly good price, but they're all busy now. They've got their work for the summer. It's going to be the same thing as when DOT went out to bid on High Street. It came in at $500,000 higher than what they anticipated because the work schedule was already full. But we could help. And even if we don't do anything more, just make a temporary road, move the houses out. I mean, once the council decides that, yes, this is what we're going to do, that's part of that contract that you won't have to bid out. I mean, there's no way that they're going to do that cheaper than Public Works can do it. We're already on your payroll. You already own your equipment. We never once gave ourselves a bill for any of our equipment on any project we ever used. So we can do that portion. And I would make the recommendation, if that's what we're going to do, and there is no chance that a contractor can come to town, let Public Works put a road on that side of the pole so that we can get by for the winter. I'm afraid of that crack now. I don't want to put any more fill on top of it, and I think the engineers had said the same thing. It's just added strain to that. So, and I feel the same way. If the ground was froze, we might be able to get away with it for one more winter and have the same kind of failure again. But if they're working, let's just move the road over. Let's put it over there.
True that. I think we need to do something, at least for the time being, and something that's going to be, we'll be able to travel, because God forbid if we ever have another flood like we did in 81, the road down on the other way will probably give away if we have a heavy rain like that. And then, what happens then? We've got the weather's a volatile thing that we never know what's going to happen, and we've got problems on both ends. And if we can at least get something halfway and use that for now and see how that's going to go. We may not have to put a whole lot of money into it if it works, and we can get, like I said, it doesn't have to be pretty, all it needs to be is functional. And if you can help us, I think that would be the way to go for now, and see what happens. I don't know that the engineers actually know what's going on with that road, and I don't know that they can say, this is the way it's going to be done, and you're going to be fine for many, many years to come. I don't know if that's going to happen.
But we're not saying that ourselves neither. I mean, we're saying tear the houses down, put a road there, and we're guessing like everybody else.
And I think
But we're 40 feet or 30 feet from the original,
Right.
you know.
Your millions of dollars.
It's very possible that the crack that we found this spring that was in Fourniers, that's right with that sewer line, could have been movement of that. I'm not really sure. Because it never did come back, so it never got any worse.
Do some testing down under there, see if there's some clay or.
If you tear the houses down, there's two of them with foundations, so you'd be down to the bottom of them foundations anyway. I'd excavate 2 to 3 feet, haul in some pony gravel, make the road 30 feet wide, put 20 feet of pavement on the top, and say, let's find out what happens. There's no doubt we have to put some type of pavement, because we can't, I mean, we've been back there 4 times just trying to fill in the potholes, and there's just nothing left, so let's not, every citizen that lives on that road that's traveling, giving them less than we should be doing, you know what I mean? Only because the uncertainty, so, I mean, it doesn't cost that much for us to run a paper down through there. But my recommendation would be move it on the other side of the poles.
Council, the engineers are shooting for the 17th, and their information next week.
What are the chances?
Getting Dubois and King here on our public hearing night, June 17th, and give us.
They indicated they would be ready with their information as far as them coming up and presenting it face to face. I'm sure they
nice.
would come if.
Just ask him, as some of the sentiments I share with Joan, but this thing needs to go out to bid if that's what we're going to do, and if we decide something needs to go out to bid December, January. It's bidding in March, April, I don't care, get it done.
The other kink in this process that has come up recently is that in order to finance this project, you have to get an opinion from a bond counsel, basically a lawyer that specializes in bonding. And the bond counsel, we were not able to use our attorney here, Rex Solomon. He does not specialize in that field, and so we reached out to another company. And their opinion is that this would have to go out to an election, public vote on this bond. So if it's going to be a $1.5 million bond or whatever it is that we seek, the public would have to vote on it in November, or we could move forward with the construction project in the springtime. So I think that's really your answer as far as can we get somebody on site this fall. We'd have to wait till after the November election to authorize them to come in and start doing that. And that's if the citizens approve the work.
Well, I think if we can do something with the city as a temporary fix, we don't have to worry about doing that for this year. As far as going out to,
If
even.
whatever the big fix comes, we have to put it out to referendum.
But we may be able to get, wait
Up another year,
Yeah,
right,
and
yes.
see. It's not something that we have to rush into if whatever the highway department can do would work for a couple of years, or who knows, just to have something passable and that would work so that, we can continue to use that area. Take our time.
Any other comments, questions?
I was impressed last fall. I went away for 2 days, and when I came back, Dave and the crew had that thing all filled in and graded off and really looked sharp, really professionally done. So I'm pretty confident that the Public Works Department could do some great help for us. as we talk about the River Road, that make sure we understand, are we talking about the temporary fix, or are we talking about the long-term fix? They're both important, and but to intertwine them can kind of get confusing as to what we're talking about. And I thought we were talking about a temporary fix at the beginning of this conversation. And I'd just like to clarify that if you could just make sure we understand where we're, because it could be a couple of years before we do any permanent. Think about it, if there was another flood or nothing, permanent fix might come with some federal money if things, the stars align, right, everything works. So, anyways, I'd like to read a prepared speech. When I decided to place my name on the ballot for the city mayor's position, based on achieving 4 major philosophical ideas. Ideas that I felt were based on problem-solving techniques, which would help in an orderly decision-making process on any issue coming before this council. I feel the council has helped in achieving with great success 2 of the 4 concepts I had started with. One successful comment was that of Getting to Know Your Budget series that the council has let this mayor implement during the past year. After 7 years of a councilor, I was always hopeful that at some point we could talk about the budget outside the framework of the current year's actual budget. Talk about the budget outside the emotion of creating the actual budget and looking at the budget, both pros and cons, structurally with short and long-term goals that would hopefully achieve a better understanding. It may seem like a small achievement to most, but I'm proud of the fact that we as a council the past year have picked a budget item subject, talked for 5 or 10 minutes per meeting. It helped both me and the citizens of Caribou better understand the workings of their local government. I'd like to publicly thank the council for allowing me to be bold. If you're not trying, you'll never achieve. If you're not trying, you'll never have to worry about failure. So with success comes possible disappointment. Farmer Lauren and I have 45 years of farm experience. We've achieved some good successes, but I want to tell everyone we've had many more disappointments. One disappointment within my original 4 goals was that of the first read concept, a concept that legislators use in Augusta and Washington, D.C., a concept that allows for good, proper, understanding, and transparent debate on any subject before going to a vote of action. As mayor, I will keep trying to implement this philosophy. Now comes the River Road. This is a subject that I feel the above concepts, getting to know your River Road, first read, would help in problem solving this very difficult issue. In my opinion, this issue has both emotional and financial implications to our community. When the second collapse of the land occurred, I called for a special meeting to allow not only the council discussion on the subject, but allow Caribou citizens an opportunity to see that their government is working on this very important issue. Issues were resolved from the first collapse in the spring of 2018. However, I was not a supporter of the emotional way in which some of those problem techniques occurred. Let me read that. I was not a supporter of the emotional way in the problem-solving techniques used. With experience behind us, as mayor, I was hoping to take the positive points of last year and work on improving the emotional parts. It was my wish, as I informed the council, to drive the narrative with information, and hopefully the emotional part would not be so high. It was my hope that we could take 5 or 10 minutes per council meeting and talk about the different issues that this collapse over time. We will talk short term. How do we keep the road open assessment of the whole road. Issues like eminent domain, issues like how much it would cost to fill in the existing hole need to be explored. Issues like what happens to the homes, what role our public works department should plan on, what about the CUD infrastructure located on this road, and what happened to the engineering design that we were promised. Well, I just found out that we're going to get a report on the 17th. Just a few of the many subjects that will be required to solve this difficult problem called the River Road. Make it clear, it's not the people on the River Road, it's the road. Over time, through discussion, listening to different opinions with both council and citizens, and with patience, with 7 independent councilors, we can resolve this issue for both the River Road residents and the taxpayers of Caribou, allowing all councilors the opportunity of free speech and opinion on this issue. We can solve this problem. Over the past several council meetings, I, as mayor, have placed one item on the agenda dealing with the River Road, the series called Getting to Know Your River Road. My goal was to let information drive the narrative. It was for the purpose of transferring information between councilors with time to think through the many options and decisions that will be made at a later time. For example, I have informed my fellow councilor through email that maybe a goal we could start some problem-solving action this fall on the city-acquired homes this collapse has affected. If it's earlier, better. I personally have thoughts on the subject and would like to relay them to other council members with the Caribou citizens listening. When I placed them on the item, what are the options on how council should handle a mobile home on the agenda? It was for information reasons. It was not to take any action at the meeting. Action was taken, and I'm confused on the direction of that action. Disappointed, I placed another item on the agenda for the next meeting. What are the options for the council in dealing with one of the homes affected by the collapse? Pick any home you wish. I just wanted to know what the options were. Again, for information only. Due to work, I was unable to attend this council meeting in which action was once again. Later, watching on YouTube, you could get the sense of confusion and emotion starting to work its way back into this topic. Just the opposite of what I was hoping to achieve as mayor. I end this long-winded conversation with you with 2 points from the mayor. Point number 1, placing the problem-solving issue of the River Road into the hands of one individual is not good leadership for council. It is not why I ran for council or mayor. Burying the subject for a later date is also not an option. Point 2, I respectfully beg my fellow councilors to slow down the action part of this issue and let's put this difficult problem through the ringer of discussion. Nobody I would ask, I got to change this. I would just ask my fellow councilors to please help with the first read philosophy that I would like to try to imply. Part 3.
Can I make a?
Part 3. Okay.
Can I just
Wait a minute now.
Okay.
Part 3. I can't do it without council help. Let everyone know.
I just want to make one statement on that, is that I don't think that's ever been probably made clear. Maybe what you have to do with the agenda is say first read only or for information only so that we don't take action on it if it was there.
I have asked, and I will discuss that another time. And I think, and yes, I will do that.
And strike that.
I've traveled the River Road all winter. It's almost like going to Vinyl Haven. You go to Vinyl Haven, everybody works, everybody at Vinyl Haven. You don't get information everybody's in Vinyl Heights, and you're in Bangor, and you're waving at everybody, and they're thinking you're crazy, because you just got used to waving at everybody. You travel that river road, everybody was waving. When you come up to that section of the road, people would, whoever had the spot to pull over, would voluntarily pull over. I actually almost think it made us friendlier. I really enjoyed it. Nobody was impatient. The people on the river road have been patient. I don't know why I get so frustrated in the solving technique. It's just unbelievable. Anyways, I've asked that, and I want to thank the people on the river road for their patience. Okay. Thank you. Any other discussion on the river road? Hearing none. City managers report.
Mayor and Council, I passed out to you a hard copy of this report. I'll put this up with of course, we'll include this with the minutes as well, so the public will have it. Just to quickly highlight a few of these. As far as the LED streetlight conversion project, the contracts have been signed, so we're moving forward with that. You should start seeing lights changed out in the first part of July. As far as the river road goes, one of the things that we did not mention through all that discussion was that the Terrio trailer, the council asked to have that put out for bid, and so that is out on the city's website, and bid request is on June 19th. If anybody's interested in bidding on that trailer, the assumption is that they would bid on it and they would haul it off, and all the information to submit a bid and what we can provide is out on the city's website if they want to look at that. We have not received any inquiries to date on that information. The blight cleanup reported to the council that the 8 homes that were inspected for asbestos, the reports came back on that with 2 of those homes having asbestos siding. Those are located at 66 York Street and 25 Street. So the homes on the river road that were inspected, so that definitely opens up the river road. The Collins Pond Dam last week, and there's some options for Collins Pond Dam. Anything else you want to add to that, Gary? You good? The 60 Access Highway building, we're still waiting on the appraisal for that. The Teague Park and Simcock parks are, if you're driven past Simcock, you'll see that they've got a lot of hay on the ground. I don't think they've planted any grass there yet, have they?
It's green enough.
Okay.
We'll see a difference tomorrow after
So those are moving forward. They're still pulling a lot of materials out of the ground at the Learning Center site, but you'll see that ground is also being leveled and ready to start building some of the proposed ball fields and tennis courts and other things on that ground. The airport committee has been busy, and I sent out in an email format to you a draft request for FBO services, which I believe there's a desire to have some more discussion upon that tonight if you'd like. The airport committee reviewed that and gave back some comments. I think the big thing to make you aware of with the airport is the coming event this weekend. They put together an event, they call it a Fly by the Pound, where people can come and voluntarily weigh themselves, and it's proposed that they would pay that amount of money, 10 cents on the pound, and receive a 15 to 17 minute flight up in the air with planes that the pilots that are based here are willing to provide and volunteer their time and services. Due to the weather, they may cancel the event, but they'll make that announcement Friday afternoon as they get closer. But we have had a lot of interest, not only from Caribou, but from surrounding communities. People have heard about it, very excited about it. So that's a good thing. far as the marathon goes, last week I asked what the status was on that, and the indication was we had 233 racers signed up when I wrote the memo. It's probably gone up, but last year at the same time we had 172, so we're already booking more for this year's race than we had last year. Then lastly, revenue sharing. There's some, as I mentioned earlier, the state is still has a lot of things that are in flux. One of those is the revenue sharing. It's been proposed by the State Appropriations Committee to raise the revenue sharing apportionment to 3%. Over the last couple of years, it's been at 2%. State law says it's supposed to be at 5% this year, but the legislature has not been inclined to raise it all the way back up to that 5%. If the Appropriations Committee recommendation moves forward, that would add roughly $150,000 to our revenue for this year that was not anticipated. At the same time, the state is looking to increase the homestead tax exemption credit. The Appropriations Committee is supporting raising the exemption from $20,000 to $25,000. So long-term residents, they would see an additional reduction in their property taxes. And the city would essentially through homestead tax exemption reimbursement. So the thought is that the cities, if they were to give us the entire revenue sharing that we are entitled to, we might not use it to reduce the tax credits or reduce the mill rates appropriately. And so the legislature is essentially finding a way to try to reduce the homestead or increase the homestead tax credit to provide some tax relief without giving the cities the full amount due through the revenue sharing. So that's kind of an update on what's happening down south.
Comments? I got a couple. Pond Dam. Wasn't there a bill in the legislature for monies for small dam repair?
There was, but it did not. Apparently, the way it was written would not benefit us.
Access. Rental.
Right.
We're looking at doing. Has that gone through?
Payments have been changed.
There was talk about
Ken's been inside. Constrained themselves to that yet. I know everything that was out. There's a lot of debris and waste material that we need to just clean out.
I would assume we would be charging the full rent on whatever space they're using until they get it down to that size. When they get it down to this new smaller size, that means we have space for rent.
Okay.
At the next city council meeting, could we have an update on this rental situation? Any other questions on the manager's report?
The airport.
Okay, I'm going to see how the powers of the mayor work here. Dennis, we received an email. It says you'd like to put a bid out on May, is it 14th? Excuse me, 14th. For F. administration have the authority to put out things for bid without council approval? Okay.
But the council has to approve their bids.
We're on structure. Would have thought this item could have been duly published. Citizens around. Grab that mic. And
The,
you know what I mean. Don't give me a hard time. And maybe you don't have, maybe administration doesn't have to. I don't know why or who do it. So if it's the wishes of the council to allow the city manager, I'm confused. I don't know. I would have thought it would have come for us for approval to go out for bid to see if this council would even want to do it.
and that's why I sent the email with this document to the council so that you would give me all of this feedback. I'm not going to put it out if you're not ready for it to go out. But administration could do it. I'm not saying that I would, because again, I need your input as just as much as I ask the Citizens Airport Advisory. The FBO service would have to come back. The intent is that it would contracts would come back to you for approval, or what they're proposing, how to operate an FBO. Then the council turns it down, and we figure something else out.
I always like, and I don't mean to hog this conversation, but I am. I always find it hard when government will work on a project, get to the end, and then ask for opinion when all the ducks have been lined up in a row. I just say, gee, you would think you had more input earlier in the process to shape it. I'm concerned that when emails, and I'm going to pull a Dave Martin philosophy. I've been real liberal. I kind of feel, hey, listen, everyone's got their own way of doing things. If you want to do it, do it. But this is getting dangerous now, in my opinion, to ask a question like that over the email. At some, people might get, some might think, well, then we can form a department head without asking. What they do to change the flow chart. Well, I don't. Council approval. Oh, okay. I wouldn't hurt. So, I have a lot of questions. I would like to know what is our current income? Our projected income from the airport as it is. What is our projected expenses for the airport? Is do all the casinos taxpayers are already putting into the airport. Airport that will generate taxes of $360 for registration of airplanes, of those airplanes. I think it's $360. Projected. We're getting rental. Airports, but we got cars, too. I would have thought that of item here that says, report discussion by mayor and council members. Somewheres in the system, we have representatives on this council that are on we've got. And I can't believe that the first time I hear that we're going out to bid for an FBO is through an email. When whoever those counselors are would have said, hey, look what we're working on. Because that document was not generated in one meeting. Somebody had to be working on this thing. And it goes to information. The transfer of information. If Farmer Mark has the opportunity to properly vote yes or no, and I lose, I'm okay with it. It's duly documented. But when Farmer Mark feels like, hey, wait a minute, the process hasn't treated me very well here. We're doing things that I didn't know about. I get emotional. Hard to believe. And I wish I could. I wish you would stop. I didn't mean to go on. You brought it up. I apologize. I didn't mean to go on. But it probably wasn't the proper place to do it.
No,
So I didn't mind
I
doing
have a
it.
few, again, and to your point, I went to the last airport advisory board meeting at the request of Tom because he couldn't be there. There was nothing, absolutely nothing said about this FBO bid. I was as surprised and the FBO proposal. Whoa, this is ambitious, maybe even a little unrealistic. I know that you can accept a contract without having all of the items in there. Flight instruction, mechanics, jumping out of the airplanes, stuff like that. You could have all that, or you can have just pieces of it as a contract. But my concern is, and I did ask the manager what the cost would be, what do we bring in versus what do we have to pay out? What is it going to cost the citizens? And he said he didn't have those answers until he had this all worked out. Well, I don't think it should cost the citizens anything. I don't think we're big enough to go into this. I don't have a problem if somebody comes up and says, I'd like to rent some space and open up an airplane mechanics place, or I want to do flight instruction, or I want to, give skydiving and stuff like that. I don't have a problem if somebody comes to us and say, I'd like to have a space and rent it, but this isn't anything that I believe should be paid for by the taxpayers. And I do not believe that we need a full-time FBO manager, person, whatever, to sit up there at the airport and keep it open so that the people can come in. We have maybe 10, 12 planes. I don't know how often they come, but the way the system works now, they can go into the hangar, they can file a flight plan, they can use the bathroom, Life Flight can come. If they want to open up the airport and have somebody sit up there, maybe the advisory board can volunteer their time to do that. But I can tell you right now that if this comes to us and there's cost to the taxpayers, I will not vote for it. And we had a large increase in the airport budget last year, but that was because of the gas payout that we had to buy. I'm thinking that we should have less money in the budget for 2020. But you want to put it out there to see what comes back? Maybe it'll surprise me and we'll have somebody that's really interested in doing this and the airport will come alive, but I don't think so. And that's the way I feel about that.
And let me say this again, This was brought up in the budget discussions last year. It's been brought up in previous meetings that the intent was to go out for FBO services. This was drafted to do that reach out. If the council says this is not ready to go out, you want to discuss it more, I have no problem doing that. Yes, I could put it out, but like you say, it would be ridiculous for me to put it out, especially if it's not been discussed before. My understanding was that we had discussed it before, not to this detail, but that's why I sent it to you. And we won't put it out until the council's ready to go forward with it. The budget was built around having an FBO at the airport as soon as possible this year, so that the FBO could take over the fuel island. They could pay us for the fuel that's in the ground, recompensate us for money that we've spent there, and we would have less money involved in the airport. I think you're right, John. Are we going to get any interest on this if we put it out? I think we're going to be hard pressed to get any interest. That's why we've left this drafted as an open-ended, call us if you're interested type of document. Let us know what you're thinking, what you might propose, because it all has to come back to the council.
When you say you're putting it out to bid, are you saying you're thinking someone's going to bid to pay us to come up and run that? Or they're going to give us what they're going to charge us to come up and run?
This
Which
is-
way is this bid going?
Right. So we did not put any money in the budget to pay an FBO at the airport. So this does not include the city paying anything. This is simply saying, if you're interested in FBO services at Caribou, send us your proposal for how that would work for us to consider. And we would consider the responses and bring those to the council. If you don't like that, then we say,
Putting it out to bid, saying, I'll do it for $100.
we like.
Just said that budget was based on getting FBO there. So I'm trying to, okay, how much was put in the budget to spend for this person?
So yeah,
You're asking for bids then for how much they'd pay us.
if they're willing to come up and they're going to, in order for them to come up and make it work, are they going to need to have the fuel island, the revenues from that? Are they going to need to have the revenues from the hangar to make that work? Are they going to say, we'll manage all your other hangars for you for a percentage? And they may say, in order for us to come up and do this, that's what we want. This is how we have an idea of how we would propose to actually provide those services. Say we can do the budget cities $1,000 a year. Okay, we come in and we just set up mechanic services, and as long as we have the revenues from the fuel island and the main hangar, we think that's enough to supplement our service. That's what the pilots are telling us that they would want. As long as somebody's up there, can keep the doors open during the week and provide mechanic services, they would call that FBO services and good to go. But
Former Councillor McDonough offered the committee the use of the airport for a year for $1. And with that, they get to keep all the money. Seemed like a good deal, and there was no takers then. But I would think that it's something, we'll let someone else run it. And they can have the honor of keeping it all. And that's plowing the runway, so we don't have to do it. They can have it all, and they can keep it all. That's, but I was assuming you were asking, that this proposal was asking for a monetary cost to the Caribou citizens for what it would take to get all those services that were listed in that deal, in that email. And I was thinking I was dealing with Boston International Airport when I read that.
Well, the last FBO was paid.
$12,000 a year.
18 in the beginning, and then he dropped it down a little bit.
Right.
And also, when the Airport Advisory Committee was formed, they jumped into, if you remember correctly, jumped into wanting to put an ad out for an FBO right away. And of course, we said, no, we're not ready for that. And I know that it was discussed, but I thought that it had been tabled and this wasn't something that was going to happen anytime soon until I saw this. I don't think, unless I'm mistaken, that we talked even about it in the airport committee meetings. And I kind of thought it was on the back burner until we saw how things went with the airport, see if there's any more, with these activities that they've been bringing to the airport, see if there's any more interest or whatever. But until there is, I think this is, put it out there, but I don't know if you're going to get
Well,
it.
and that's the thing, is I want to get your comments into it. If you have anything that you would want to take out and say that's just not even worth putting into this request, I hope you actually get some give us their bid for.
I think that was looked into last year by the committee. We talked to several people to see if there was anybody out there interested to come and perform mechanics,
Right.
services and stuff like that, skydiving, anything, and flight instruction. And there's just, it's like, looking for a needle in the haystack, really, because they just aren't there. So.
But we can stay optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing here. And that's what we need to do. We don't want to burden taxpayers of this community with any more money out of their pockets that is absolutely necessary. And getting an FBO up there, I think, would be a good thing. But yet this is still a 5-letter word called a draft.
Right.
And I think we just need to all take it with a grain of salt at this point. We need to see what happens. And if somebody comes back to us, they come back to us. If they want to run that airport, knock yourself out. You want getting somebody to run the burden off of the citizens in this community. There's a lot of people and that's just fact.
So I think, if I can just try to make the distinction, my confusion on it was just that the council came out on Wednesday, came out the next day, and the first thing I thought was, why wasn't that in the council packet? And then it would have been a first read if it had been just described that way. And just, this is my opinion, it would have maybe not created so much confusion. Am I reading that the right way? So that was just my thought on it. It just appeared part of it. Requesting comments, because we could have been, well, I mean, we're doing it now, but if it had just been part of the packet, then we could have kind of avoided all the confusion.
And I'm sorry, I thought it was under the direction of the council to try to get FBO services, and that there wasn't any other discussion that was necessary to to try to put this kind of a bid out, so.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, thank you. Reports and discussion by mayor and council members. Well, the mayor's talked enough, so how about council members? Dave?
Yes, I guess the rec put on an excellent project graduation, so maybe we could go in business. Nice job. Bunch of great comments.
75 kids participated. 75 kids left this morning at 6 o'clock. We never lost a kid all night long. Nobody left. It was very well attended. Parent volunteers, plenty of them. It was excellent. Excellent.
And Gary hasn't slept yet, so. Right.
Anything else? Anybody else? Any counselors would like to say? Okay, number 11, reports of from officers, staff, boards, and committees.
We included the minutes from some of the committees in the council packet for you to read. So.
Very well. Chair will,
Maybe I should have mentioned this in the previous section, but so High Street reconstruction has started officially, if anyone didn't notice. So it got kicked off, last Tuesday? And I think they extended it 2 weeks, so the paving project will start, the end of July? I think?
So this project here has got an end date of
This is important to the people of
That's all right.
Caribou.
Yeah, I
So
understand.
Please, grab that microphone.
So, you and I was at the pre-construction meeting that DOT had last week. And I did learn there that the project got extended, and now the finish date, or be done by, is July 29th. And the question they had for me was, how did we word our portion, seeing how we're doing phase 2 of the project? But luckily, in anticipation of that, I wrote it up instead of dates. I said that our portion has to start within 2 weeks of the completion of the DOT project. So we're still in good shape.
It confuses me that they need more time, but they only show up half the time.
Well, part of the problem is they wanted to start here at the outlet end, but because of the detour that had to go around, one of the state requirements is 10 business days of posting. And I don't think that they were aware of that. So that kind of got things, and they tried very, very hard not to do the 5 nights of, the contractor tried very hard with DOT, so they didn't have to do 5 nights of work in this intersection while the detour was going around. They felt as though they could do that during the day. But DOT informed them that there's 9,000 cars a day through that intersection, and they felt as though that 5 nights, if they got their act together, they could be through that intersection and probably well on their way to Hannaford Brothers. So I haven't heard nothing otherwise. Have you?
Nope.
Although I was surprised to see him working at the intersection this morning, but they stayed off the lane, so.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is coming. We will have High Street this year.
It goes all the way to the bypass, I hope.
So they are only going to do the catch basins and the sidewalks up as far as Glen Street. They are going to repair the catch basins because the pipes are in good shape. When you come off Bennett Drive and you make the right to swing down by the old Bowyer's Garage to come through there's also 2 basins and a pipe failure there. I believe they're going to fix that while they're there. I think at the meeting we heard that the basins and the pipes going down the bypass are okay. They didn't anticipate nothing more than cleaning in them. The city's project, the Public Works, MPI that we talked about, the 50/50 share, we are going to start right at Main Street. I will do the 2 little coves that come in. And we are going to go down onto High Street towards the intersection, and that you can actually see a physical change in the pavement where DOT had paved up to it 4 years ago. We're going to go 10 feet off the pavement so that we have a smooth surface the whole way. Any other questions? It's been a long time coming, yeah.
Will there be beer?
Whoever brings it.
As long as it's in a styrofoam cup.
Yeah, for this year anyway. When are we going to get Chapter 13 from Planning Board?
Oh, thank you, Dave.
The planning board is meeting this Thursday to review some of the revisions that I've been making and suggestions. So
Within a month, 2 months, maybe? This year?
hopefully the end of this year.
Okay.
Anything else? Okay. Chair will entertain a motion to go into executive session Title 405.6. Title 1, 405.6.
So moved.
Moved and seconded.
Moved. Second.
Tommy moved. Jones seconded.
Question, is it 4056A, B, C, D, E?
Well, I just read.
For the personnel issues, what
Yeah.
we talked about?
Oh, was this the one I wanted? Oh, I thought you had some too. Oh, okay.
No, I don't have anything tonight.
Oh, then it's the personnel one.
It's A.
A. 405.6A. Any discussion? All those in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Have a great evening. Night.
Jane, do we need to sign anything?